got some story for you now. My next guest says that former Top Gear presenter Jeremy Clarkson saved his life. Andy Hood from North Devon saw an episode of the Grand Tour on Amazon Prime, which made him go to the doctors. He was diagnosed with cancer and has now been successfully treated and is out the other side. As a thank you at the weekend and to raise some money for charity that helped him, Andy ran an ultra marathon to Jeremy's Diddley Squat farm in Oxfordshire. He's been telling me why he claims Jeremy Clarkson saved his life.
Very straightforward. I was watching an episode of the Grand Tour. I've followed Clarkson, Hammond and May since the Top Gear days. Myself and the three boys love it. We were watching an episode and they were doing a challenge to see whether they could improve their lap time if they were desperate for the toilet. So they drank 3 pints of water, waited 20 minutes. And during that particular part of the episode, they were just talking around about the need to get up in the middle of the night, a prostate issue that us men are very familiar with. A few days later, I came back from a really lovely summer's evening run up here in North Devon. I was in the shower and I was thinking about the episode. I was thinking about prostate. My mind went on to prostate cancer. And then a sort of triggered testicular cancer came into my mind. And it was not something I'd ever thought about before. I was 48 years old at the time. I'd openly say that I had not checked myself. And I did. And it turned out I had cancer.
Did you feel a lump then?
So mine was very different. So I wasn't aware of the signs, and the signs can be very different in different men. So it's important you get to understand what they're normally like and whether there's a swelling or a lump. But mine actually had shrunk. One of mine had shrunk to about the size of a marble and gone rock solid. And this, of course, was in 2021. So we were mid-COVID, really. So, of course, my slight fear was the impact upon the NHS. And very quickly, the doctor had me across to an ultrasound. And then I hadn't been home an hour from that ultrasound appointment when the doctor rang and said, "I'm referring you to the urologist." And it's at that point I knew that something was pretty serious. The urologist appointment confirmed it was cancer, and the scans had shown that it had spread a bit. And it was very obvious that if I hadn't have checked at that particular point, the conversation we would having when I had become aware of it, if I became aware of it later on, would be a very different conversation, John.
Thank goodness for that. And that is why you speak to shows like this, because thousands of people right now might well go and do the same. People deal with that diagnosis, those words, very differently. You kind of try and prepare yourself for, they could say that. They could say it's cancer. How did you deal with those words?
Yeah, the urologist's appointment, the only word I heard was cancer. He was talking a lot, but it was the only word. It came louder and louder and louder. And it's when it sunk in that, it was a very strange moment. They were very reassuring. I did challenge back. I was mid-training for a run to Land's End, and I did say to the urologist, could this wait until after the run? And that was met with a very curt reply.
No.
So everything was a whirlwind from that point. It was not long until, it was less than 10 days, I was on the operating table at North Devon Hospital. I was then told I'd have to have chemotherapy as well, but I needed to wait until I'd recover from the operation. And it was whilst I was going through that recovery phase that I decided you can either go down one of two roads. I had to accept I'd had cancer. I had cancer. And I'm at a high risk of getting cancer again. But I can either let that really negatively impact me, or I could, as I decided to determine at the time, come back as Andy version 2.0, rebuild. And I had been gifted an opportunity here, and I wanted to do something with that opportunity. And that opportunity for me looked like talking about it, as you and I have just said, John. I've learned so much about testicular cancer in the last few years. It affects age range typically between 15-year-olds up to about late 40s, with the average age of diagnosis being around about 34.
How old are you, Andy?
I was 48.
That's my age.
And I had never checked. So
I'll be honest, I thought I was out the danger zone. That's interesting.
Well, I've had a very good friend who is 69 that was diagnosed last year.
Wow, okay.
So, and that I've learned so much, and a lot of this was coming back was about the awareness. So it was talking about it, being very open about it. We've got three young boys. Say the young boys are 22, 20, and 18 these days. We make it part of our monthly routine in the family. The first Tuesday of every month, we put a little message in our family group and say, "It's Testy Tuesday. You know what you need to do."
Sorry. Very immature of me to laugh at that, but go on.
But it just gets the message out there. And my running, once I got back to running, I was marathon running up until diagnosis. And I decided that with this opportunity, I wanted to get into ultra and endurance running. But I wanted to always use my running as a platform to be able to create the awareness around this particular cancer and support others going through it as well. Clarkson prompted me. I feel it's only right I pay that forward.
How was the run? You picked Diddley Squat for obvious reasons. I love Clarkson's Farm as well. Was he aware that you were going?
Yes. So I had put quite a lot of posts out there, and the farm shop themselves had picked up on it. They had reposted on their Instagram stories about my run as well, which got a terrific audience. I think around about 80 or 90,000 people saw that particular post, and that's really good for the awareness. I started Saturday morning, just after 8:30 in the morning at Oxford Station. I ran to the Farmer's Dog, which is his pub first of all. That was about halfway mark, around about 17 miles in. I had the most amazing welcome and reception there. I met Mark, who is general manager of Hawkstone, the brewery.
I thought you were about to say I had the most amazing pint of Hawkstone, but probably not best midway through. No.
I was offered. When I arrived at Diddley Squat, it was a very, very hot day Saturday. Arrived there to a really lovely reception. I got cheered in. I got rounds of applause.
That must have felt, painful because you've just run how many miles?
34.
Yeah, that's that. How were you? What kind of state were you in when you got there? You must be a pretty good runner if you're okay with that.
Yeah, it was. The run itself was good. But when I got there, I knew I'd find it emotional, and I did. I cried. I was also met by another lady, a very senior lady from one of Clarkson's team. They just spoiled me rotten for the next 2 or 3 hours. Jeremy Clarkson's PA, who was there, said that Jeremy was aware of the run. He knew exactly what I was doing. He knew why I was doing it. And I had a letter that I had written to Jeremy, which he took personally from me and is giving it personally to Jeremy. He couldn't be there because he was out of the country.
Yeah, he's a busy boy, isn't he? Just out of interest, when you cried when you crossed the finish line, was that the first time you cried?
No.
No, there've been other tears, but you were stripped down and knackered and had felt some kindness, and it just all came out.
I knew I was going to be emotional because without, and I don't say this lightly, without that episode of the Grand Tour, without Clarkson, without Hammond, without May, there is a good chance, John, you and I would not be talking now, and that's a sobering thought.
Because you think about your kid, you don't think about you, do you? You think about your kids.
Yeah.
Feel guilty.
I've written a very personal letter to Jeremy, and I did finish it by saying, thank you will never be enough. You've ensured that my children have a father, and you've ensured that my wife has still got someone who won't empty the dishwasher.
Yeah. Well, you've got other jobs. You've got bins to do, Don't worry about that. Don't worry about that. We're glad you're here as well. It's a great story with a great headline. Clarkson saved my life, and what you've done is overused, but it is inspirational and it is important, and it's all of those things. Keep it up. Version 2.0. I didn't meet version 1.0, but I like 2.0. He's done well.
Thank you. I like him as well, and he wouldn't be here unless I'd been gifted this opportunity.
That was Andy. Andy Hood. Jeremy Clarkson saved his life. So he ran an ultra marathon to Diddley Squat Farm and has raised lots of money for a charity which gives sort of goodie bags to people who are undergoing chemotherapy in North Devon. weeks. So thank you, Andy, for coming on the show with us. And, you know, good opportunity, isn't it, to just have a check. If you're a man of any age, just to check if there's any sort of changes down there. It's John Akers at Breakfast, BBC Radio Devon. We have got some issues on the road.